Clearly being short-term, you're not looking 15 years out. You may be looking, you want to sell a business plan to somebody else when you come to the end of your period. So, I think there is a planning element of this. And actually, outside the Netherlands, there are investors that we're acting for who buy assets and say to us that's in our 25-year hold bucket. And that, of course, gives you completely different freedoms and a different price of capital and a different working relationship with the local authorities. And in some cases, national government, when those are really large investments, as one particular one with our portfolio that would fit into that category. I think that I don't want to overclaim here because we can't really take that long-term view. But I think to pick up some of the things that Chris was saying, I fundamentally believe with the change that we're seeing in society and the way that our uses of buildings and offices are changing, the whole planning time frame in Western Europe is at a complete disconnect with actually what the commercial demands are. And actually, local authorities, they haven't got a lot of money, but what they need to do is to develop more flexible planning consent so that people that are investing over a 5-7 year period can actually do something from a planning perspective rather than having to try and strategically plan something over 12-15 years. Because I think a 20-year planning horizon, which is not unusual to try and get a piece of land in, is just complete disconnect with modern society, and we just need to completely rethink how that fits in and supports the economic development side of what we do.
Yeah.
Did you want to pick that up? Yeah.
Well, we were just saying, you're right, that's a total disconnect, but there are other ways of working around that, and coming back to that relationship. So bridging those different stakes in there between the municipalities and other stakeholders, that makes it more effective, more speedy in terms of decision making. I think, given the current framework, we could, for instance, pass on the question to see if the government would change the framework, but that will take also a lot of time. In the meantime, we want to be a partner, and given the fact that we are a long-term investor, we are particularly interested in not only the short term but the long term, as we believe that there is value to be created and also be taken up by the investor. So we apply a different method, I think. It makes sense. And yes, we would like to see that the planning cycle would be shortened, of course.
Yeah, but good. But possibly what we also have to keep in mind is a little bit the accountability of the local governments, because what we realize, if short-term political issues come up, even agreements that have been made 2-3 years ago are questioned again just because from the current political situation the government or the local commune thinks it is necessary to show action, and therefore demands that plans that have been agreed 2-3 years ago are now possibly under question and be changed again. I think that's another issue, that accountability should not be in between the long on the political agenda that is very much shaped on election time frames.
Okay, good.
You're right, but at the same time, we've been very apt in understanding how private law also works with the municipalities. So that's the effort. Having private agreement with the municipalities, which is solid as a rock. And that's also helpful come election day.
Just going back to Marcus's point, I think governments, especially now, really are not even agreed what their roles are. Are they regulators, or are they responsible for economic development? And you go to cities in Italy, you go to Milan, for example, and the mayor doesn't believe that economic development is part of his job. He thinks the private sector somehow magically does this. And now it's going to get even more complicated, because we're entering a period, the next 10, 15, 20 years, where the whole idea about equality and fairness is going to be a huge issue with the electorate. Sure. So how can the government, in that frame of mind, say, well, the support that I'm making to the private sector, the deal that I'm making for the private sector, which seems to benefit private entities, is actually fairer for everybody? That's a very, very difficult political thing to say, but this has to happen.
This is all about trust.
course.
And about taking responsibility also at the local level. When you have, you know the importance of the economic development of your city or your region, and you are involved in setting the agenda, you need to be involved in a way that's with a focus on the long term. You can't be focused only for your own election period. And I think at the local level, also at the provincial and national level, a lot of people know this. Are they always able to act like it? Not always, because there is some political difficulties always. But a lot of these people are really accountable.
Yep.
Don't say that they are not accountable. I think in Holland a lot of local politicians are accountable.
Yep.
But we have to help them. We have to be respectful to them. It doesn't help when we say you're not accountable.
I think I wouldn't say that.
You help them when you say, how can we be partner? How can we work together? And how can we make agreements that are being not straight away after 2 years, but are sustainable in a way that we can work together also on the long term? And then we have to reinvest after 10 years, because accountable is not about, it's not for 2 or 3 years, but also the investments of large companies need to reinvest. There are situations that companies have assets in cities that is not had any reinvestment in about 25 years. It's really awful. So you yourself need to be a little bit more focused on the situation in these cities and try to make a reinvestment in this situation that is really necessary. And then you meet each other in a way that you can be focused on the short term and also in a long way in a stable corporation.